Is this episode 40?
Yes.
I feel so old now. Like we've been doing this forever.
Yeah, it feels that way, Josh.
Happy Australian Open Monday, man.
Yeah, how's it going, John? Big start to the Open, day one out of the way, and plenty of talking points already for sure.
100%. We could kick off with the Australian Open with some Aussie results because that's all we really care about.
Yeah,
right?
some Aussie results. Not the best first day for the Aussies, to be honest, John. Unfortunately, Jason Kubler went down in a marathon at 5-hour 5-setter. He lost 10-8 in the match tiebreaker. Dane Sweeney put up a good fight. He's actually a Leighton Hewitt lookalike, Dane Sweeney. Put up a good fight, but he lost in 5 to number 22 seed Francisco Cerundolo. Adam Walton also lost in straight sets as well. But in better news, Chris O'Connell won in 5 sets in a match that lasted over 4 hours as well. And, so we are going to talk a bit about Alex de Minaur as well. He'll play Milos Raonic tonight on centre court. Probably no point in us going into too much of a detailed preview of that one. We did it in our last podcast anyway.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed Alex can get through that first round and push on through the tournament, John.
Yeah, I think he's a good chance. Let's check some odds. We'll have odds now. So we're looking at the Australian Open, which is tennis. Why don't they get really excited and put that real big? I heard there's a lot of betting that goes into the tennis. I'm really curious, actually.
Yeah. So that's, to summarise, I think that's 3 Aussies have gone out on day one. And one has progressed. Chris O'Connell, the only one to progress.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot more Aussies still in the draw. So fingers crossed we get some better results.
De Minaur's paying $1.10 right now to Milos's $6.50.
Yeah.
Bet with your head not over it. For free and confidential support, contact gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Yeah, I think that the main issue for de Minaur, it's all going to be about how Raonic's serve goes. If Raonic's serve doesn't hold up, de Minaur will win the match. It's all. I guess that's the danger of playing someone with such a big serve, though, is that if they're on, well, what can someone like Alex de Minaur do? If someone with the serving power of Milos Raonic is on song. As I said in the last podcast, he made a Wimbledon final in 2016. This is the quality of server that Raonic is. Granted, he hasn't played much tennis in recent times. He's had quite a few years now where he's played very little Grand Slam tennis, Raonic. And Raonic's problem's always been that once he can get his serve back, someone like de Minaur can get his serve back in an awkward position for Raonic. He's a very big man, and you'd think, well, being big in tennis, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But it can work the other way as well. If you get awkward returns at the feet of the big men, they have trouble getting down low to the awkward low returns, and Raonic is in that category. If you can work out how to return his serve, he's no chance of beating you. And Alex can be very confident. Just got to hope he doesn't have a really good night with his serve, Milos.
Yeah. Well, according to Stan Wawrinka, echoing Pat Rafter, it was Pat Rafter the other day. Pat Rafter's comments. It's actually he believes Alex de Minaur is capable of doing anything in the Australian Open, including getting to the finals.
Yeah, it's just I think what happens is some of these overseas players and overseas pundits, that of course they get asked about. The media asked them about the best Australian hope. And this year it happens to be Alex de Minaur, with Nick Kyrgios not in the draw and with Ash Barty retired. It's Alex de Minaur who's flying the Australian flag this year. And so when these, people like Stan Wawrinka or people like, John McEnroe or Jim Courier or whoever it is, the first thing the media will ask them is, well, how do you think Alex de Minaur is going to go? And I think they feel obliged to be nice and polite and say all the right things. And that's fine. They're just being polite. There's no problem.
Well, they don't want to be hated.
Yeah, they don't want to be hated. You can understand that. They're in Australia. They're not exactly going to say bad things about the best Australian hope in the tournament. But as we went through the other day, John, there are just so many... Unfortunately, there's just a lot of players in front of Alex at the moment. He did have that really good lead-up at the United Cup where he beat Taylor Fritz, he beat Novak Djokovic in a huge win, and he beat Alexander Zverev. But what you got to think about is that was over 3 sets and it was a lead-up tournament. That's in the heads of all the players. They know it's a lead-up tournament. They know it's only 3 sets. And a lot of the time, subconsciously or whatever, they just don't go full pelt in those lead-up tournaments. So you need to bear that in mind. They're gearing towards the Australian Open. They're not thinking about a warm-up event, these players.
Yeah.
They're using it as, well, how can this best aid my preparation for the Australian Open? They're not going into it thinking that they have to win that match at all costs. And so they only go at about 60 or 70%. And so you need to view those wins that De Minaur had at the United Cup through that lens. And over 5 sets at Melbourne Park at the Australian Open, it's a different ball game. They're playing for huge stakes. And so if he can get through Milos Raonic, which we think he can, he's then got most likely on a fairly easy path until the 4th round when he runs into Andre Rublev, and then it just gets harder from there, John. So a lot of players in front of Alex. It's very nice and polite that Stan Wawrinka said what he said. But I can't see how what Pat Rafter said as well, that he could make the final. I just don't see how that's possible at all, John.
Well, Rublev went through as well. I'm just checking the things. He beat Wild in a 5-setter.
So he's on track for that 4th round meeting with De Minaur at this stage.
And other people that De Minaur beat, like Fritz, won in a 5-setter as well. Novak Djokovic was really pushed last night.
He was, I was going to...
I look at those articles. I looked at the article today and for this because I didn't watch, and it was talking about, like, you know, Prismic.
Yes.
Prismic.
Gino Prismic, an 18-year-old from Croatia.
Yeah, really pushed him. I mean, he won 1 set.
I mean, to be honest, John, I did watch the match. I watched it in full. Went for 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Started at 7:15, finished at 11:15. So to be honest, John, you didn't watch it, did you? Yeah, so I watched it all. And John, if you look at the scoreboard, so it's 6-2, 6-7, 6-3, 6-4. If you look at that, you go, well, he got through. He had a bit of a hiccup in the second set, but no big deal. But if you had to watch the match, it was, you know, it went for 4 hours, and the scoreboard doesn't indicate how close it was. It took Djokovic a while to get away from Prismic in that 3rd set. They were going hammer and tong at each other. So looking at the scoreboard alone, you'd go, oh, no big deal. But if you think about, well, it went for 4 hours, well, no, you don't, no easy match goes for 4 hours. It was a hard slog. Prismic did, you know, for an 18-year-old to take a set off Djokovic and take him 4 hours in the first round. Very impressive, and he's certainly one to watch out for.
I saw something that it was like Novak Djokovic's longest first round at the Australian Open in forever or something like that. But because the first thing I did when I woke up was I looked at the scores and I saw Novak Djokovic, and then I read about how it was like Prismic almost pulled off the impossible. I'm like, these news reports aren't matching the scores at all.
To be honest, John, at one point in the 3rd set, I thought, well, what's going on here? You know, I thought... But it all hinged on that 3rd set. Once Djokovic kicked away in the 3rd set, Prismic was never coming back after being down 2-1. But yeah, Djokovic would not, you know, obviously relieved to get through, but he would not have expected to be pushed that far. What I think works in his favour, though, is the Sunday start. So now he gets those 2 days off. He normally would only have 1 day off, but that's the advantage of playing on this first Sunday, is that he now gets 2 days off going into his second round.
I listened to his press conference, or snippets of it, on the way to here this morning, and that's one of the things he was highlighting. Like, he's going to need the 2 days off. He feels like he wasn't playing very well. And that's one of the reasons why that it was pushed so hard, and so he's going to really need these 2 days, and he's really happy to have the 2 days over the one. So
and if you were to ask, well, why the struggle for Djokovic? Why did he struggle to get through it? Was it more that he had an off night, or was it more that his opponent really aimed up and played above himself? I think it was the latter, John. I think his opponent aimed up, played above himself. And we talked about someone's got to play the match of their life against Djokovic. I think Prismic did play the match of his life last night, but it just wasn't enough to beat Djokovic.
And that's why if De Minaur gets through and comes up against Djokovic, even the match of your life ends up with Djokovic winning a lot of the time.
I think, John, De Minaur is on. Say if De Minaur wins all, he gets through, and Djokovic gets through. I think they're on track to meet in the semi-finals.
Yeah,
from memory.
Semi-finals.
So, how does someone like Pat Rafter, if Pat Rafter's saying that De Minaur could make the final, the first thing I'd be saying to him, well, all right, Pat, how's he going to beat Djokovic in the semi-finals?
Pat Rafter said it before that draw had been announced properly, but still you have to think, like, no matter where you're going to meet Djokovic, you're going to meet Djokovic. You know, like, if he wasn't on that pathway, if they weren't on the same side of the draw, then for Alex de Minaur to win, he still would have had to have beat Djokovic in the final.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other players in front. It's not like Djokovic is the only player in front of him here. There's a lot of other players in front of him.
Unless he had some ridiculously lucky draw. Like, it's not disparaging Alex de Minaur. It's just the guys. There are guys who are better, and tennis is a one-on-one sport. And
yeah, we're not disparaging Alex de Minaur. Alex de Minaur gets the absolute best out of himself, John.
Yeah, every time.
And if you're talking to young kids who are playing tennis about who they should look up to, then Alex de Minaur is a player to look up to. He gets the best out of himself. He's got a great attitude. You really can't fault him in that area at all, John. It's just there so happens to be a number of players in front of him in this tournament. I think he's got to number 10 in the world because he does all those little 1%ers so well. And he's so consistent throughout the year. Gets great results at every tournament. He's a consistent performer, and so he just accumulates all these ranking points, and he's accumulated his way into the top 10. But unfortunately, when it gets down to it, over the best of 5 sets at Grand Slams, there are just a number of players you would say who are in front of him because they have weapons in their game that he does not have at this point in time. He's only made one Grand Slam quarterfinal. That was at the US Open in 2020. So, and that it remains an issue, John. So we're not going to. We're on an unfiltered podcast here. We're not just going to get on and say that Alex de Minaur is going to make the final when it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't care if anyone likes me.
You got to call it as you see it.
Yeah,
don't you,
there are just people in front of him. So he'll play at 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, just bear in mind we are recording Monday morning. The match is Monday night.
Yeah. And so hopefully he gets through. On Thursday we'll have some happy times. He would have to play again. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'd say it'd
Sunday,
be Wednesday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the first round.
To be honest, John, it's a bit confusing now that they've added this extra day at the start of the tournament. Ordinarily, if you won on Monday, you'd be playing again on Wednesday. And I presume that's what's going to happen. But this early Sunday start is unusual, and it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
So,
and you can't.
I think, from my understanding, John, I think what's happening is that Sunday is just an extra day added to round one. So round one will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then round two will be on Wednesday and Thursday in week one as usual.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday. Then there's nothing on Friday, and Saturday is round three. So it reverts to normal.
Yeah, so I think all that this extra Sunday is just one extra day added to round one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he'll probably most likely have to play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll be in on Thursday breaking down 2 matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully he'll be through to the third round by then, John.
Yeah. So Channel 9 is actually coupling a lot of flack for their coverage, to be honest.
Just before we do, I was just going to talk about Djokovic and what he said about Ben Shelton as well.
Skip that, yeah.
That's all right, yeah. So, as we said before, John, Djokovic scraping through that first round against Prismic in 4 sets, 4-hour marathon. I just wanted to talk about... Now, what happened at the US Open last year, John, was American star Ben Shelton lost to Djokovic in the semi-finals. Now, Ben Shelton uses a celebration when he plays, where he puts the phone at his head. That's what he does.
Yep.
And Shelton's reasoning for that is he wants to show that it's his signal that he's dialed in. He's dialed into the match. And so he did that against Djokovic in this US Open semi-final last year. And Djokovic's response was, when he won the match at the end, to go like this. He had the phone at his head, and then he hung the phone up as if to say, yeah, get that up here, Ben. But now Djokovic, for some reason, he's brought it up again, John, and he said he's had a go at Shelton in the days leading up to the Australian Open. at a press conference. He said he was talking about the hanging the phone, and he said it was a reaction against him. He did not behave properly. And then you sort of go, yeah, but Novak, you responded, you reacted to him, and you like. I don't have to be honest. I think that's a good celebration to hang the phone up. I think that's quite clever. But you just leave it there, don't you? You don't then go and bring up, because you've done the exact same thing as what Djokovic has done the exact same thing as what Shelton did, and now he's taken it upon himself to have another go at him in this press conference. And this is the thing, John, and it gets to a wider point about Djokovic, right? Now, I watched the whole match last night. Moments in, the crowd would not have known who Dino Prismic is. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't have known who he is. Moments into the match, they were cheering loudly for Prismic, wanting him to win. And there's part of you that when you hear that, part of you feel sorry for Djokovic. You go, well, this guy's won it 10 times. He's won the Australian Open 10 times. And these fans they've got it in for him. They can't stand him. They've got no love for him. And there's a part of you, there's a sympathetic side of you that goes, the poor guy, what does he have to do here? What does he have to do to earn the love of the crowd? But then he goes and says stuff like this, John, and then you just go, well, stuff you, Novak. Like, what do you expect? And you try and give him as many chances as you can. You try and be civil towards him. You want to give him an opportunity. But then he just throws it back in your face with this sort of stuff. Yeah,
well, you just ask, like, why? What does he have to do to get the love of the crowd and to not do things like that? That's his thing. Like, he does stupid crap. He's not a likable person because of his behaviour. Look, even in the press conference, the snippets I heard, I didn't have a chance to listen to the whole thing, right? The discussion about his match last night. From what I heard, he just talked about himself and how the reason for the match was like going the way it did was because he wasn't at his best, and he needs the 2 days off and then he'll be back to his best. And he gave no credit to his opponent. Yeah. And he's just not a likable person because of that. Everything's about Novak Djokovic, and athletes, especially in one-on-one sports, they don't have to be liked. They don't have to be likable. They have to be characters that bring people to the game. People go on. Novak Djokovic is the kind of guy that people go to watch, so in the hope that he'll lose, which is just as effective as, going to watch in the hope that they'll win. And you have two ways to go when you're a heel. You can go deep into it and just not care, or you can be a whiny little whinger like Novak and why doesn't anybody like me? Because you're a heel.
And he reacted. He swore at the crowd last night. He reacted to the crowd. And then you go, well, if you're going to react to the crowd, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, seriously, they're going to keep baiting you.
Yeah.
And that's what they did last night.
Especially in Australia.
Yeah, I mean... And then I think it gets to a wider point about Djokovic, and then you go, well, what? I mean, I think there are a number of reasons why he's not well liked, and you touched on it before, John, where you said you don't have to be liked. But he just tries so hard to be liked, and people can sense that, and I think that puts people off. People sense, this guy's trying, he's just a try-hard. He's trying too hard to be liked, and they can't cop it, John. And I think a lot of it as well is to do with, I think he's come along at a time where you have Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal who are so loved. I think people were just not ready for this third sort of joker spoiler candidate to come along and crash their party.
Well, he came at the time when there was also Andy Murray. Everyone always forgets Andy Murray because he never won nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a long way below the others.
The thing with Andy, but he was like, because they had the big four and it was those three and then Andy Murray, but Andy Murray never won nothing. But the reason Andy Murray was in that big four was because he was fourth in the world, and he was also so like forward thinking, he would correct reporters when they would say, what was that famous one where they said, Roger Federer is the first tennis player to win 20 Grand Slams, and then Andy Murray corrected him and said first male. So everyone loved him. And then, but, to that point, Novak Djokovic came up with those two guys, or those three guys, if you include Andy Murray. But there are other guys coming through that are more likable than Djokovic. Like, people love Alcaraz. They love him, And there are other guys like that. I think Novak Djokovic's main problem is actually that he is just not likable, and he never will be. And like I said, he has two ways to go. He can either dive into it and just embrace the heel thing, or he can keep whining. If you keep whining, it makes people hate you more. If you dive into it, you get the love of the people who like heels. And like combat sports is a classic, Colby Covington, nobody was interested in him. He became a heel. There's about 50% of the people in the world who love Colby Covington. He just goes into that heel persona, and everybody knows it's just an act. But all the MAGA people love him, and all the rest of us watch his matches in a hope that he'll get bashed. Yeah. And then, when people are booing him, he just buys into it and goes like, "Yep, I love it. Yeah. Bring it on." It doesn't get offended by it. It's just part of his heel act. And there are other guys like that as well, like Conor McGregor. Like, I just like to take the opportunity to apologise to absolutely fucking no one. He's a post-fight speech. Yeah. He's just, and he just goes into it and just, it doesn't matter. If you keep letting it affect you, especially in Australia, like Australians, we're like, sharks, blood in the water.
When there's hostility towards you 30 seconds into a match where nobody knows who your opponent is, then you know that you really... that they don't like you. But, again, he should not care what the people in the crowd think of him, John.
Go into it, man.
He's the best player of all time. He's got all the money in the world. He's got everything you could ever want in life. Why would you care about these people you don't even know in the crowd who are booing you? He just shouldn't care. He lets it get to him too much. He reacts. And that just causes it to,
he should
continue.
See a sports psychologist about not caring. That's it. Like, that's just the thing. Like, just don't care. Just stop caring.
And he had that, and we're going to get to, a bit later on in the other news, we're going to get to the charity event he put on. And, that's all well and good. That's great that he's doing a charity event. But, I mean, he could donate to charity at any time. He doesn't need to put on a tennis event. It's like he used it to, to be more... It was a way of trying to be. It's this narrative that he just wants to be liked so badly. All right, I'll do a charity event. I'll get Steve Smith and Shane Warne's son to come and Peter Bowl and I'll try and be well. And again, no problem at all with him raising money for charity. But at any time, someone of his wealth could donate money to charity. Any time,
maybe he does.
Amount of money, and he doesn't have to hold a charity event to do it. He could donate. $500,000 to charity tomorrow if he wanted to.
He might do it. There's a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about it where Larry David donates money to a wing and gets his name on the board. And then there's somebody else donates a wing and it's like anonymous. But then Ted Danson is the anonymous donor and goes around and tells everybody. It's great. Maybe he does and he's just anonymous. But I just feel like Novak Djokovic is the kind of guy who would go around and tell everybody that he was anonymous.
That's the thing. No problem donating to charity, but you could do it anonymously, right? You don't have to parade it in front
even
of
if I don't know Novak Djokovic, but he just seems to me like the kind of guy who would donate money anonymously and then tell everybody that it was him. And that may not be it, but that's just it. That's the persona he has. That's the way he is, and no one likes him because of it. And it's just too bad. Like, just get over it. Nobody cares. Like, he shouldn't care.
Yeah, and he was talking about Shane Warne on the charity night, and he's just sort of going, Novak, you wouldn't have known who. You don't.
Does he like cricket?
You're from Serbia. It's not a cricket country. You don't have to pretend that you know a lot about Shane Warne just to get people in Melbourne to like you.
He could very well love cricket. But you just don't know.
Yeah.
And because of who he is, you would just assume that, like, he doesn't know anything about cricket and he's just trying to get people to like him.
Yeah.
And that's so, like, he does all these things and, he could be with the very best intention, but his other behaviour makes it seem to everybody in the public that it's not. So, like I said, he should just not care. He should give up and just count his dollars. He should Scrooge McDuck and have a big money vault.
If it was a player from a cricket-playing nation who said they loved him, you go, oh, well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Shane Warne's a global cricket figure, but for a Serbian player,
he could very well be the number one cricket fan in the world and love Shane Warne. But but it's just not believable. And I think the turning point, I always just think about this with Novak Djokovic. The turning point was he made Roger Federer angry in a match. Roger Federer, the coolest and calmest character in the entire world of tennis, got super frustrated in one of those the final matches with Novak Djokovic, like purposely delaying points and stuff like that, and it just annoyed the crap out of Federer. And that kind of thing makes people hate you. If you can rattle the calmest and like most universally loved person, and it was in rugby league there was a big thing where love him or hate him, people were like Michael Ennis, even though he's a grub, I like him. Like that was the thing. Like he's a funny grub until he annoyed Nathan Hindmarsh so much that Nathan Hindmarsh tried to punch him. And then it became like really like definitive. People really hated Michael Ennis, because like man. No one is off limits except someone like Nathan Hindmarsh. And Djokovic can go and annoy him because when he annoyed Rafael Nadal, everyone was like, yeah, it's fine. Because actually Rafael Nadal annoyed everybody with his tics and his, like he has such a thing. And it was kind of annoying to a lot of people.
I to be honest, I didn't mind it, but it may have... You're more of a Federer fan, aren't you? But
it annoyed other players. But everyone was like, it's fine for Nadal to annoy everyone and it's fine for Djokovic to annoy Nadal. But when he annoyed Federer, the most unflappable character in the world, it was like, Roger Federer was like a protected species.
People just love Roger Federer.
And it's like, it's not just the tennis fans, because Roger Federer is one of those guys that transcends the sport. I remember having a conversation with a 20-year-old where he said to me, no one watches tennis. I started laughing. I was like, dude, that's a world game. And he said, like, I could only ever name like one tennis player, and it's Roger Federer. And I was like, that doesn't mean that no one watches tennis, you damn 20-year-old. But the fact is, Roger Federer transcended the sport, and so he was protected not just by tennis fans, by non-tennis fans. And so right now, even non-tennis fans hate Djokovic.
Yeah, and I got to say, John, it even got to a point with Federer where he was loved so much that, in my opinion, and I know you might disagree with me, but in my opinion, I think even when all the statistics pointed towards Nadal and Djokovic being better, which they do now, people were still willing to overlook that and say Federer is the best
Roger
player
Federer is a goat.
That's the thing. That's how much he's loved, that people were blindly willing to ignore all the statistics, all the logic, to say that he's still the best player of all time.
If Roger Federer had been 10 years younger, then he would still be... He would have access to all the sports science, and now I'm just it's not justifiable statistically.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were going to have the GOAT debate, John, but I thought there's no point because it's not a debate anymore. Yeah. You can't. It's at a point now where it's not a proper debate. Yeah, Djokovic is the best.
It's just
player
a thing.
Of all time.
Like you can just rattle off the statistics. Like
be a debate, it's got to be up for.
Late last year, I asked, "Is there any record that Roger Federer still holds?"
Yeah, and no,
there's not actually.
No.
Every single
of the key ones. Yeah.
Every single one of them is like broken by Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic took it. So yeah.
But one point to make about Djokovic before we move on. I think his opponents would not. One thing about the crowd get into him and everything, they boo him and he reacts, but it never affects his play, ever. If anything, it makes him more switched on. So his opponents need to be wary of the crowd getting into him too much because it makes him play better. It's an issue for his opponents. It was when Prismic last night you thought he was getting on top in that third set. You thought, well, where's this going? Could it be that this is one of the biggest upsets of all time? Then the crowd got into him a bit more, and then he just switched on, and the match was over in 4 sets.
I actually know, like personally, a few jiu-jitsu guys like that, where once the crowd starts getting into them, they go up another gear, and people, because jiu-jitsu is a much smaller community, people fully know it, and it'll be like, don't get into him in this match.
That's the difference between Djokovic and someone like Kyrgios. If the crowd get into Kyrgios, you could easily put him off his game.
Well, he collapses.
Yeah, Djokovic, it goes the other way, and it makes him more switched on. So if you're playing against Djokovic, you don't want the crowd to rile in.
Sometimes there is a point, once Djokovic starts really heavily interacting with the crowd, then it actually has gotten to him quite badly. And there's been a few instances in recent history, like when he did the symphony thingy and then he lost the match. It was like it had gone past that point, actually.
That's the thing, but it's only when it happens. It's always a match that doesn't mean that much. It's never it never happens in the majors. Ever.
But that's why if you're going to give it to Djokovic, you got to give it to him so much that he goes past that, and it can't be an important match. As a crowd member, if you want Djokovic to lose, you can't give it to him in an important match.
If you're the crowd, you probably if you're in the crowd and you want him to lose, you're better off cheering for him. I mean, you are, because that's your only hope, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Channel 9, they've been copping a lot of flack, actually, not just about the terrible preview show.
Yesterday, I watched the preview show and I thought, I need to say something about it, John. It was just lame. It was boring. It was terrible, John. And I'll give you an example. Andre Agassi was on it, and that was the only good part of it, actually. They interviewed him, and he's always interesting to listen to. And they were talking about, I don't know if you've read his book, but it's a really good book, Andre Agassi's book. It's called Open. And they showed the cover of the book, and then the presenter said something like, it's the second best-selling sports book of all time. And it was clearly a set-up gag. And then Agassi asked, which book's the best then, if mine's the second best? And then because they had Todd Woodbridge on the panel, they showed this old Todd Woodbridge book and said, this one's the best. And they thought it was like a great joke or something. It was like, yeah, really funny. Yeah, that's so funny. I was in stitches, John, in stitches of laughter. There was just no personality, no charisma, no insights given. It was just the most basic analysis. Apparently, Todd Woodbridge is going to be hosting a game show now, John. I mean, that could be the most boring game show of all time. He's got no personality.
I got to look up this game show.
Seriously.
Is it Gladiators?
I can't remember the name of it. And they never shut up about it. They keep promoting it. You talk about...
Tipping Point.
You talk about overrated NRL players, John. He could be the most overrated TV personality in Australia.
What is Tipping Point? Oh, it's a UK TV show.
And, I feel a bit... like John Millman was on the show as well, John, and he said Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open is equal to Rafael Nadal at the French Open. I thought, what? Djokovic has won the Australian Open 10 times. Nadal's won the French Open 14 times. I'm sorry, but 14 is not equal to 10. It's just
Well, it depends on how you do the math.
If someone's won an event 4 more times than someone else...
well, it's just flat Earth.
I think you could call them an equal.
Flat Earth. Math doesn't exist.
Yeah. Was I not at school the day where 14 means the same as 10, John?
They're copping a lot of flack because also they actually... The internet went crazy when O'Connell's match was on because they cut off his match to go to Djokovic's match. And Djokovic's match hadn't actually started. It was still like the warm-ups and the intro and stuff like that. And it was when O'Connell was about to win, like out to serve out the match or whatever. Yeah. I saw the internet go crazy. There has to be some. It's live, it's live. So there has to be someone off to the side going, this isn't working. Let's move on from your silly book jokes, guys. And also with the coverage, it's like, all right, we'll just delay the cut over because, Djokovic hasn't even started yet. Let's just finish up this match. It's only going to be another 5 minutes. We'll just go over to Djokovic later. It doesn't matter because everyone was watching O'Connell's match because it was intense. It was a 5-setter. It was, it was 6-5 and he just had like one more to go
Maybe they stayed with Djokovic just because it was unusual how much difficulty he was having getting through the match. And if Djokovic had been steamrolling Prismic, they probably would have been more inclined to go to... it was O'Connell, I think you said, was playing at the time. Yeah, so maybe that had something to do with it.
I know, because O'Connell was finishing when Djokovic was starting. That was the thing. People wanted them to stay.
Oh, right, okay. So they wanted to stay with...
just for 5 more minutes, bro. Yeah, just 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And then it would have finished.
And then join Djokovic after. Yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. It was Kubler who... O'Connell's match finished earlier, and it was Kubler's match that went on a bit later on into the night. Yeah.
And that was it. So they're going... I was actually just sitting there, and all of a sudden, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, all of the social medias were just blowing up about like, no, go back to O'Connell.
Yeah. I think the only good things about Channel 9's coverage, I really like Jim Courier and I really like John McEnroe, and they were in commentary together in the Djokovic match. And I don't mind them at all, John, even though they're American commentators. I quite like it because apart from Leighton Hewitt, the Australian commentators are terrible. So I enjoyed listening to McEnroe and Courier, and I hope they keep doing that because they drown out Woodbridge in the commentary. He doesn't get a word in, and you'd much rather listen to them than listen to him. But in general, apart from that, John, apart from Hewitt, Courier and McEnroe, Channel 9's coverage is just boring. It's dull. It's like that they don't know tennis very well. They haven't been covering it for that long. They don't know the intricacies of the game, and their coverage is just lame. It's just a B grade display, John.
How did they get it off Channel 7?
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate because their coverage is nowhere near as good as Channel 7's used to be.
Is it on KO?
No, because Channel 9's just got it. I think it's on Stan as well, but it's a completely Channel 9
I'm not getting Stan. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Get it to KO. They have to have options. That's one of the things with modern sports. You have to have options now. Otherwise, as a sporting organisation like the Australian Open, they need to have two, because if there's people in the middle that are like, that we always talk about, that you have the diehard people that'll watch anything, you have the people in the middle that may or may not watch it, and you have the people that won't. If the people in the middle are not enjoying the commentary and they don't have another option, they'll turn off. They'll start watching the Shawshank Redemption instead. I don't
think I'll be watching Todd Woodbridge's game show anytime soon, John.
I don't watch any game shows. We've got some Nick Kyrgios news, thank God, because he'll keep everything light, as he always does. He's not happy with Pat Cash.
Yeah, Pat Cash has called out the crowds at the Australian Open. He says he thinks in recent years the behaviour of the crowds has gone downhill, and Pat Cash wants improvement in the behaviour of the crowds. And Kyrgios has given it to him over at John. He said, and I quote, "Absolutely stupid comment by another old head that has no idea how marketing or how things work in today's day and age. You need entertainment." He's not one for showing a lot of respect to people, is he? Just another stupid comment by another old head. I find that really disrespectful, John. Like, Pat Cash won Wimbledon in 1987. He's one of the all-time greats of the game, and John, everybody should be showed respect.
Yeah,
but for a former Wimbledon champion to be just trashed in that way by Nick Kyrgios, it's just, this guy is just an absolute, he's a drop kick, John. He's an absolute drop kick.
Our last Nick Kyrgios discussion was around how he was getting slammed on the internet for saying something about Rafael Nadal, making it about himself, and both of us at that time said, that was pretty tame for Nick Kyrgios, you know?
We defended him over that. That was fine.
But he can do one pretty tame comment, and then don't worry, a week later he'll give you something that'll just once again prove he's Nick Kyrgios and why he's. But he's happy with that heel thing, because people watch Nick Kyrgios not because they like him. They watch him because they don't know what he's going to do next.
Well, like Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They follow him on Twitter because they don't know what he's going to say. I don't know what's going on over on his OnlyFans. He's probably given up on it because he keeps going back to Twitter. And
then after that, he says someone like Pat Cash wouldn't be able to grasp that concept. I'm not taking anything away from Pat Cash, incredible player of his generation. It's like, well, you just called him you said it was a stupid comment by another old head. He throws out that dagger, and then he says, I'm not taking anything away from him. It's like, no, you clearly are taking something away from him because you're being disrespectful to a legend of the game. No,
yeah. He wants to just have a feud with everyone.
He's never been... It feels like no one's ever pulled him into line. It's like when he was 12 years old, he needed someone to...
Smack him upside the head.
He needed someone to pull him aside and tell him to pull his head in. And because he was such a good player all the way through, nobody ever had that conversation with him, and he's always thought he could get away with doing whatever he wants. And it's continued into his late 20s now.
How old is he?
I think he's
27, 28,
I think.
Yeah, 28. Yeah, you always hope kids will grow up, and then it just seems to be it's taking longer and longer for them to grow up these days. I blame TikTok and Nick Kyrgios.
The main instigator.
Yeah, they're the two things, the problems with today's society, TikTok and Nick Kyrgios. Unfortunately, Millman didn't make it. He didn't qualify, all right, and so they didn't end up giving him a wild card either. So he's retired now.
Yeah, they made him go through qualifying. Yeah, and his career's over now. Look, I know I had a bit of a go at his performance on the preview show just before, John, but I think it would have been nice if they had given him that wild card. I don't think he should have had to go through qualifying. He's always been a player who's given it his all. And yeah, so it's a bit of a pity, John, a pity that he didn't get that main draw send-off. Yeah. I think his career best ranking, I believe, was 33 in the world. He reached that in October 2018. So that was just after he beat Roger Federer at the US Open. That was obviously the peak of his career there, John. But yeah, well done to John Millman. A really good career. He can be very proud of himself, and just a pity he didn't get that main draw send-off, John.
That is unfortunate, but, what has he got? One ATP fight. Okay. Cool. Yeah, well, what a good career that he had. He's 34 years old. He's kind of retired a bit early.
Yeah.
Given the current state of some of those olds, like how much?
I guess for someone like Millman, you sort of got to think. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure where his ranking was at his time of retirement, but if it was around like the sort of 100 mark or so, you got to think that a lot of those players that they struggle to make ends meet on the tour because they have to pay for all their accommodation, flights, everything. They have to pay for themselves, and they're not, because their ranking's not that good, that they don't earn the prize money they need. And they struggle to attract a lot of sponsorships as well if they're ranked about 100 in the world. So that's the thing. Someone like him sort of goes, well, I'm probably better off just retiring, getting into commentary. And I don't have to pay to go travelling all the time.
Because now you can commentate from basically the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'd say that's probably could have gone another couple of years, but that's another couple of years of flights and accommodation that he'd have to fork out for. And someone with his his career best ranking of 33, that's really good, but I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, John, but I'm guessing his ranking would have slipped a fair way down. After that, we can even probably look that up if you want. What John Millman's ranking at the end of his career.
John Millman.
If you click on his ATP profile, if you just go John Millman and then click on his ATP profile.
I spelt his name wrong. Wikipedia always comes up first.
Yeah, ATP Tour. Yeah.
627.
Oh, gee. Well, there you go. It's gone right.
He dropped 143.
Yeah, so there you go. So he's not going to. He'd need to rely on wild cards to get into tournaments now, and apart from in Australia, it'd be really hard for someone like him because he's not a huge name elsewhere.
And he has been
those wild cards.
He has been around since 2006, so that's a long career as well.
Yeah, so well done to John Millman. Really good career, and all the best to him in retirement, John.
Yeah, he can join a podcast or something. And then, of course, John McEnroe has talked about the extra day of the Australian Open being a money grab. Somebody's got to say it, and it's obvious that that's what it is. There's no other reason for it. Yeah, well, McEnroe calls a spade, and he's right in this instance, isn't he, John? I mean, it would have just been a way to get extra money out of Channel 9. 15 days instead of 14. Yeah, it's now worth 15 days, and so then Channel 9 can then go and get more advertisers for it. They can up the cost of sponsoring it. Sponsor a Australian Open's probably, I don't know, it'd be millions. Yeah. The prize money is, $75 million or something like that. In that region. So, Channel 9 has to pay a lot of money for it, and then Channel 9 has to recover their money. And adding an extra day, that's the only way they'll do it.
Yeah, and you can charge more for the TV, right?
Yeah,
so it
exactly.
gives you a lot more leverage.
So yeah, so the Australian Open can say to Channel 9, you've now got 15 days. Channel 9 can now go to the advertisers and go, now got 15 days. Therefore, it's more expensive.
Yeah, and the extra day is a Sunday as well, which is the best TV ratings day. If you're going to have one extra day, you do it on a Sunday to get the Sunday TV rating.
Sell more tickets as well.
Yeah.
John McEnroe's right. It is a money grab. As long as, I'm actually having in the middle of a conversation right now about this. As long as money is passed on to the players at a fair and equitable rate, then it's okay. And as long as it doesn't detract from ratings, and any extra money is passed on to the players in the current rate. I think tennis gives 50% of profits to players as well. So, one extra day is good for tennis fans as well. And the only reason they're ever going to do anything is money.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest deal in the world, John, but it's,
No, he's right.
He's right, yeah.
It's unfortunate as well that everything just comes down to that in today's society. Like, it just comes down to how can we make more money? We'll add an extra day onto the Australian Open. And if it's successful, are the other Opens going to follow suit?
Yeah, well, the French Open already do it. So they've copied this off the French Open. So, yeah, we wait to see. I get the feeling Wimbledon, it's such a traditional tournament.
Oh, God. They don't change anything.
I don't think they'll change a thing. If it was going to happen, it would be more likely to happen at the US Open.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they decide to follow suit in the near future.
Yeah, so that's it for tennis for the day. On Thursday, we'll either have 2 Alex de Minaur outcomes or
one. Hopefully it's 2.
Hopefully it's 2, and then a preview for his next one.
Preview for a third round, yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about cricket.
Yes.
I saw this story about Dave Warner on Friday. So, he retired from Test cricket and promised to go and play back for the Sixers, and Steve Smith returned to the Thunder. So they were playing each other on Friday. Which is funny. And Dave Warner had to go for a wedding.
Yeah, his brother's wedding.
Wedding in the Hunter Valley.
Yes.
And then left the wedding and decided to fly a helicopter to Sydney. And everyone is making fun of him for it.
Yeah, I know you like David Warner, John, but I've got to call him out on this. I didn't like it, John. I sort of thought...
It's so bizarre.
I mean, I thought, look, what is this? I mean, what if every player arrived? If you're going to let one player arrive at the ground like that, well, you've got to do it for every player. How ridiculous would it be if you had 22 players coming in on a helicopter?
It's so bizarre.
It is because, and it's the same. He is, when Kerry O'Keefe said that David Warner's the Novak Djokovic of cricket, that could be the most profound statement of, well, certainly the year so far, John. He's Novak Djokovic. Every time, you try hard, you try your best to like him, but then he goes and does something like this, and then you go, oh, well,
There you go again.
What do you reckon?
I don't know what anyone would be thinking in that situation. Like, what thought process gets you to that? Like, I got to go to a wedding. And, it's the Big Bash League, which we've talked about, and everybody knows they don't care. They don't often play for it. And he just decided, I've got to play this one specific game. Yeah. The only way I'm going to be able to do it is to leave. Because he left his brother's wedding and then flew straight from the wedding in his helicopter to the SCG and then went back to the Hunter Valley afterwards or something. Like, why? What?
It's an attention-seeking ploy. And you go, well, did your retirement not give you enough? Is he an attention addict or something? Did his retirement not give him enough attention?
It's such a weird...
He's got to go and do this shortly after his test retirement.
What is the thought process, and why did somebody say to him, dude, why didn't somebody say, dude, that's not a good idea? Is that really your idea? It's not a good one. It's not a good one.
And I know, John, I know we've been critical of, I think you and I have both had issues with getting interested in the Big Bash this season, and a lot of it is to do with the lack of star power in this event, in this tournament now that used to be there. It's no longer there. And so on one hand, you sort of go, well, at least he's making an effort, unlike some other players who are not. But it's the way that he's done it, John. And his team were no chance of making the finals either. So he could easily have just gone, look, guys, I got my brother's wedding. I might just take the night off.
Yeah, I've skipped the last 5 matches. Why does it matter?
Easily, and his team would have gone, look, yeah, no worries, Dave. Enjoy your brother's wedding.
And
but he's gone and he's made it all about him again, John, and flown a helicopter into the SCG.
The Sixers are also playing tomorrow. So he could have just skipped that match and then gone to Perth and played tomorrow for his return game. It's just such a bizarre thing for him to do. That's why I can't comprehend the thought process of that at all. You know what a good idea is? I'm gonna go to a wedding. I'll go play a match. How am I gonna get there? I know. Yeah. I'll get a helicopter. What?
Yeah, I think he's with the Sydney Thunder.
Oh, sorry, Thunder.
But they couldn't make.
The Thunder is playing on Wednesday.
But they couldn't make. They can't make the finals.
Yeah, no, they can't. They can't.
So. And now he wants the Cricket Australia and the Thunder to pay for it as well, I think, or pay for.
Ugh.
Yeah, so Cricket Australia and the Thunder are going to split the $5,000 bill for this as well.
It cost $5,000.
$5,000.
He's not enough of a personality to worry. If you had, I can't think of anyone.
He's like Novak Djokovic.
I can't think of any cricketer. Right, that warrants that kind of investment. But in other sports, it might be if it was the NFL, you fly Tom Brady, and then it's okay for the team and the organisation to split the cost because it brings people to the game. Dave Warner's not bringing anyone to the game.
If it happened to be Shane Warne, you would...
Now, if you go back, that's a better example. If it was Shane Warne, you do it because Shane Warne brings people to the game, and it'd be such a Warney thing to do, and it's so funny.
Yeah, if Shane Warne was doing that, I'm at the game. I'm buying tickets to the game. Let me tell you. David Warner's doing it. I'll go do something else.
It's going to do nothing for me. It's just such a bizarre thought process. And now the organisation's going to pay for it. It gets even stupider. Anyway, that match was another. The other news about that match was it was Steve Smith versus Dave Warner, and there was some gentle sledging going on. And Steve Smith's going to open for Australia, so he went back for the Sixers and opened for the Sixers and got out off the very first ball.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It is just a big bash game. I wouldn't be too concerned about that having any sort of flow-on effect to the Test arena. But yeah, look, Steve. I think it is fair to say though, across all formats, Steve Smith's been below his best for quite a while now, John. And I think we're getting to a point where we want to see some more from him in all formats. Obviously, I'm not going to be stupid and suggest that his place is under pressure. I'm not going to make a ridiculous comment like that. But I think we're at a point now where we need to see more from him, John. We need to see him step up. In this Test series against the West Indies, it's a really good opportunity against a subpar team like the West Indies, a 2-Test series. He's moving up to open the batting. I know we were very critical of the decision, and justifiably so. I think, John...
well, if he's going to get out off the first ball in the Big Bash League...
Yeah, I mean, that is only a T20 opening. T20 opening is going to be very different to Test opening, of course, But all those factors we talked about, like his record at number 4, the fact that they had Cameron Bancroft, who could easily have slotted in to open, having been the top run scorer in Sheffield Shield cricket for the last 2 seasons now, and also the fact that Cameron Green coming into number 4 didn't make a lot of sense either, given that he only averages 33 in Test cricket, with Smith averaging 61 batting at number 4 in Test cricket. So all those factors considered, we were questioning that decision, but Steve Smith has since come out and said that he hates waiting around to bat. He hates waiting around. He hates sitting on his hands to come in at number 4. He wants to get out there and open first. So, okay, fair enough. Let's see how he goes. But we need to see some runs from him. It's been a lean trot by his standards for quite a while now.
Well, it was Daniel Sams who bowled him out as well. He's going to play the West Indies and become an opener, but Daniel Sams will bowl him out when he's off the fresh ball at a 2020, at a domestic. But when does that West Indies match start?
Wednesday,
yeah. So we'll see how he goes against West Indies, and
hopefully they bat first and we get a look at him opening the batting before Thursday.
Yeah. Another person who is out, Aaron Finch, out for a duck in his retirement game.
The Renegades sent their retiring skipper out a winner, a 6-wicket win over the Stars in that Melbourne derby, John. But disappointing for Aaron Finch, out for a third ball duck at Marvel Stadium. They got over 40,000 there, so the crowds do.
The crowds are coming good this year for the BBL. Actually, I've seen a lot of good 30,000, 20,000 kind of type crowds. So,
well done to Aaron Finch on a great career. Yeah. I mean, the all-time leading run scorer for the Renegades. Well done to him. And we got to give a bit of credit to Glenn Maxwell as well, John, your mate, the Big Show. He took the catch to dismiss Aaron Finch in his last innings, and Maxwell, out of respect to Finch, had made no celebration after taking the catch. I thought that was a really classy display from Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah.
So well done to him. That's a really good show of sportsmanship.
Glenn Maxwell can do no wrong.
Apparently not, John.
Right?
Apparently not. Everything he does is good. Chats about Novak Djokovic and David Warner disappointing everyone all the time. Here's an example of somebody who can do no wrong. Who is a genuine hero.
Yeah, Aaron Finch is a champion. Hopefully he has a good retirement. He'll probably go into commentary, and hopefully
he's been doing commentary. Yeah, so
it'll become his full-time job. And hopefully he can improve some of the cricket commentary that's I don't actually know any. I haven't heard him commentate, but hopefully he can improve some of the terrible cricket commentary that's currently around.
There's no shortage of that, John.
Yeah. And we discussed last year that there was who was it? A Ricky Ponting.
Ricky Ponting
had a fake Twitter thing, and we went through like how it works and everything. And Adam Gilchrist has now had one as well.
Yeah. So somebody's come out and. I don't know, for some reason it makes me laugh a bit, John, but anyway, someone's put out a fake tweet under Adam Gilchrist's name saying, Pakistan is the worst Asian team in Australian conditions. What have they won here in the last 35 years? And, people have, blown up at Gilchrist over it, and then he's had to come out and clarify and say, look, guys, it's not me. And he's cleared that up, but it wasn't before people blew up at him.
It's not a bad quote, actually.
That's the thing. But that's the beauty of it, John. The smartness behind it is that it looks like it could be sort of legitimate, and that sort of makes it funny, doesn't it? And that's the thing. I looked at it and thought, well, good on you, Gilly. You're getting out there, out on a limb, and I don't think there's a lot wrong with what he said, John. I think it's or the fake Adam Gilchrist said. You sort of go, well, he's sort of on the money.
When was the last time Pakistan actually won anything against Australia?
Oh, they have. I don't know. We'd have to go back and look that up, John. But their record in Australia is very poor. I don't even know.
It's been 40 years since they won in Victoria.
I don't think they've ever won a Test series in Australia, John. I don't. No,
they haven't. They haven't because they don't even win matches. 1995, 1996 was the last time they won a Test match in Australia.
And they didn't. They haven't won a series here.
No, never won a series because they've won only 2 times out of 10.
So that's the thing. If he had have said that, there wouldn't have been a lot wrong with it, John. But
yeah,
you would have gone. Yeah, that's a fair comment, Gilly.
You gotta worry about the sophistication of internet trolls, I guess.
That's the thing. That's the beauty. Like if it was something completely ridiculous, you go, oh well, he'd never say that. But this one's one of those ones where you go, oh yeah, it could be him.
The Ricky Ponting was so obvious.
The Ponting one. I've got the Ponting one here. It was after Australia beat India in the World Cup final. And the account that claimed to be Ponting's account said, this is a win of justice against cricket mafia. Yeah. Your money and power is still not winning World Cups for you. How embarrassing. Ponting owned India and BCCI.
Yeah, see, so that's the thing. That doesn't sound like Ricky Ponting.
He says it's a win for justice against cricket mafia. You go, well, that's not Ricky Ponting.
Yeah, exactly. But the Gilly one sounds like Gilly.
It's funny.
These Twitter trolls, man.
They're getting smarter.
Yeah.
They're working out that you can't make completely ridiculous comments. So you make these borderline ones that could be true.
Honestly, Twitter needs to do something about it. Like driver's license to create an account. Anyway, that's cricket for the week. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Australia bats first in against the West Indies.
Yes.
And we have something to talk about on Thursday.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm sure nothing much will happen unless West Indies get all out really quickly on.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a lean period for cricket news because we haven't had any Test cricket for a little while now. So yeah, it's a bit of a lean patch, but at least thankfully we've got the tennis going on.
But on to rugby league. So last week, honestly, guys, just our opinion. We're doing a Dragons preview. Last week we previewed the Tigers with Dan having them finishing 17th and me having them finishing 15th. So we're going to talk about the Dragons this week. Because they finished 16th last year, and where do we think they're going to finish this year? Obviously, they have a new coach in Shane Flanagan. He's signed 5 new players since he's taken over. Yeah,
so it's Corey Allen, Tom Eisenhuth, Kyle Flanagan, and Harme Selly. Have I missed anyone there?
No, that's the 5 players he's signed since he took over.
So in terms of their gains for this year,
they've also gained Cyrus Stanley Trail. Did you get that one? Yeah, that's the other one.
Okay.
They were meant to get what was his name? Ronald Volkman.
Right.
Who was going to be the backup half. But when he arrived, he had a shoulder injury, so they decided not to sign him. And he was released from the Warriors 2 years early, so he's now in limbo.
Right, okay.
Which is a little bit of a bad thing feel bad for Ronald Volkman. He's going to be out for the season, so the Dragons decided not to take him, even though he'd already been released by the Warriors. So now he's in nothing. But that was basically it. They've lost Billy Burns, Jaden Hunt, Josh Kerr, Alex Lobb, Moses Mbai, Zane Musgrove, Jaden Sullivan, Aaron Woods, and now...
Is it Tyrell Fuimaono? Is that...
he was let go.
He was just let go.
Yeah.
Unsigned.
Now Amon is gone as well.
Yeah, look, so all in all on the recruitment front there, John, you'd have to say that not much has really changed. And so the only thing really that's changed is the coach.
Well, they've lost one of their best forwards in Josh Kerr. That's it. They've lost one of their best forwards without replacing him. And they've lost all of their halves. This is the big thing about them, right? The coach has changed. They've lost all of their halves. So now the only established halves they have is Ben Hunt and Kyle Flanagan. They were meant to have Ronald Volkman and Amon there as backup halves or bench players or whatever, and they have no one now. So they have literally no depth in the halves.
And I got to say it again, John. We got to be honest with our listeners. Kyle Flanagan's only been signed because his dad's the coach.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the reality. There's a reason why no other team picked him up other than the team that his dad is now.
He's already been through 3 teams or whatever it is at such a young age. He was at the Bulldogs, the Sharks. Flanagan brought him on the Sharks.
Roosters, yeah.
He went to the Bulldogs, then the Roosters, or the Roosters, then the Bulldogs?
Roosters, then the Bulldogs. Yeah. And the Roosters didn't want a bar of him. They let him go. The Bulldogs picked him up, I think, hoping that, as a struggling club, hoping that he'd realise his potential. And it just didn't happen, John. So you got to think that this is a player who was unwanted by the team that came third last, and now he's joined the team that came second last only because his dad's the coach.
And so we still don't know who the fullback will be either.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about this, John. So Terrell Sloan has been earmarked as the long-term fullback. But we've now got a bit of competition for that spot, don't we? With, Zach Lomax training at fullback. Corey Allen's there now. John, I read...
Corey Allen's out for a year.
Yeah, so I read... So he's got a knee injury and he's out for a year.
Yeah, so So
he's no longer an option there.
Yeah, this is the thing, because on the same day, Ronald Volkman and Corey Allen were both ruled out for the year.
So wasn't Corey Allen only signed to a 1-year deal?
Yep.
So... How does that work?
It's
you
so
sign
bad.
Someone on a 1-year deal who's out for that year.
Because he got injured at training. So it's it was actually devastating.
So he may never play for them then. He may get picked up by someone else without ever playing for them.
So on the same day, Corey Allen ruptured his ACL at training. We discussed with Sam Kerr. It's the same injury as Sam Kerr. He'll be out for a year, the full year.
So what is it? But is it a 2-way battle between Sloan and Lomax now?
Yeah, and Lomax is a centre. So in reality, they'll probably go. They don't have a centre. They don't have any centres.
So they may as well have Sloan at fullback and Lomax in the
So this is your spine. This is out of the squad. I tried to put it together this morning. Look at this, because the squad's down to 27 players as well in their top 30. So it's the likely spine, my thing would be Tyrell Sloan at 1, Kyle Flanagan at 6, Ben Hunt at 7, and Jacob Little at 9. Mm-hmm. That's the best I can do. Now, you talk about Willie Mason bagging Newcastle's spine and only having Kalen Ponga. Well, what would you prefer? Newcastle's spine with Kalen Ponga or the Dragon spine with Ben Hunt?
Yeah, you would prefer Newcastle.
Yeah,
spine,
and so you want to bag a spine, Willie. Like, you're gonna have to look at the Dragons pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, Kyle Flanagan is. I mean, he was previously a 7, and they're going to move him to 6. That was the thing. You got Ben Hunt, who doesn't want to be there, who I rate as the most overrated player.
So what I was going to ask you about him. So what's the latest with Hunt? Is he going to stay put, or is he still niggling?
It's all those guys are now stuck until 2025. Now that Jerome Luai is gone, done his signature, and he's not moving until 2025. Ben Hunt is leaving in 2025.
At the end of 25 or
beginning? He'll be released for 2025.
Right,
because they're all trying to find someone.
Right, so is he still? He's under contract until the end of 25, but you think he'll be released?
He'll be released for
season?
They basically asked him to play out this season because there's no one to sign for this season.
And it's not good knowing that we really know that he just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, and so my opinion, honestly, guys, it's just my opinion. Most overrated player in the league is their gun spine member. You have Jacob Little, who's no slouch, but he's Jacob Little. Like, what's he played? Like, like 30 games or whatever. He's 27 years old. He's not a gun hooker. He's played 96 games since 2016. He's been in and out of first grade. And then Tyrell Sloan, simply because the reason I put Tyrell Sloan as first is because they have no other centres, so Zach Lomax has to play centre.
Yeah, so Sloan has to play fullback.
Yeah. It's like they have no depth. Dragons have no depth. Literally none in the halves. They have none in the halves. So there's Cody Ramsey, who would have been also pushing for fullback, but he's still sick. He was out all last year with an illness, and he's still sick. He's not coming back. It's good that the Dragons are taking care of him, but they don't have any backup fullbacks. They don't have any backup halves, and their best hooker is Jacob Little. They've already got...
Stocks are thin, John.
Yeah, 2 major injuries, and they've lost one of their best forwards.
Is Paul Turner, is he at the... I think he's at the Dragons now?
Yes.
Is he another... I think he played for the Warriors and the Titans. I'm not sure if he might give him another option there at fullback, John, if Sloan doesn't work out.
I can't remember. I looked at the squad this morning. He is.
Yeah. So he could potentially give him another option there, John. But
so he can play 5'8" or fullback. He's in the Train-On's development squad, whatever. He's played one game. He played one game last year. He's not a first grade.
Yeah, a lot would have to go wrong with Sloan for someone like Turner to get a look.
If this is your depth, you're in a lot of trouble.
Scraping the barrel, John.
Yeah. He's played 11 games in 3 years for the Warriors and Titans. 2022 was his breakout year with 7 games where he scored 1 try. I honestly can see nothing for next year. No matter who Shane Flanagan is or whatever, I can see nothing. There's no new signings coming. They've already missed out on some big name players that we talked about a few episodes ago. No one wants to go to the Dragons. Shane Flanagan can't get signatures for next year. They don't have depth. They don't have a strong forward pack. Apparently Jack Bird is going to be playing in the back row, but he may be going as well. Or he wants out as well. There's some rumours that I'm hearing. Their backs are looking thin.
I think for some reason he's been training in the centres too. Jack Bird, I was reading.
Maybe to trial Zach Lomax, and it's like Jack Bird's not a good centre. He's a good back row. I don't think he's a good centre. He's played centre before.
It just seems like they've got no choice but to put Lomax in the centre because Sloan is at fullback and there's just no other options.
Yeah, there's no other options. That's the thing with it amazes me that the Dragons are in such a terrible state actually with their squad.
So I guess if we're looking at where they're going to finish, John, look, I've got them niggling up a little bit only because you go, well, what's changed? All right, they've got a much better coach now. And so I'm sure he will...
Who was their coach before?
Oh, Griffin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking Shane Flanagan over Anthony Griffin, John.
Yeah,
He's
100%.
got the runs on the board. He took Cronulla... We should remember, he took Cronulla from... And this is one positive for Dragons fans. Took Cronulla from being down the bottom of the ladder into a premiership team in 2016. So we've got to give Shane Flanagan credit for that. He knows what he's doing. He will instill better habits in this squad, even though there's been very little movement on the recruitment front. He will instill better habits. They'll have a better attitude under him. I think for that reason, I'm moving them up a couple of spots. I've got them finishing 14th, John.
You are mad.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to move up a little bit because I've got a couple of others in mind who I think might drop down the ladder, which... I won't reveal yet, John. I'll wait till we get to it.
Like I said the other day, I have them finishing 17th, simply because if... So
you think they're going to be the Spooners instead of the Tigers?
It'll be... Dragons fans are not patient, and they're not they don't accept failure.
So how long do you reckon they'll give Flanagan? If things don't... If he struggles in the next couple of years, which he's going to because they don't have the players... How patient are they going to be?
I was thinking about this a lot last night. I think the best possible outcome for Flanagan is to actually get the spoon. Actually. Because then the following year, he can push for like 14th and 13th, and it will be a massive success. And it will give him a much more leeway with the Dragons fans, because the Dragons club as a whole is run by the fans. You know, they're super vocal. They have the oust doused signs. You know, like they whatever the fans say and whine about, the club tends to follow when it comes to staffing and coaching and stuff like that. So if he gets the spoon this year, and then next year changes to a team that isn't avoiding the wooden spoon and he's sitting around that like next step up, it extends his lifeblood by like another 3 years. If he doesn't get the spoon this year and battles to avoid the spoon, which is very likely, and then does it again next year, then it will be a massive... Like, the Dragons fans will be like, oust Flanagan. I can't think of a rhyme. They're pretty creative, but yeah. But I think they're destined for the spoon this year just mainly because if they get any injuries... They don't have the squad to cover anywhere. Only the forwards. They're okay in the back row, and they're okay. Like all of their squad forwards over their top forwards are around the same level. Actually, you have guys like Jack DeBellin and Jack Bird, and I can't think of who else, but Jack DeBellin and Jack Bird, who are like a little bit a step above. But their squad contains a pretty consistent level of forwards. So forwards going down is not a bad thing. But like I said, if the centre goes down, well, Jack Bird's moving from the back row to the centres. If your fullback goes down, your centre is having to go to fullback, and Jack Bird is going to have to move from the back row to the centres. That's all we have there. Unless Cody Ramsey suddenly gets better and comes back into the squad.
Yeah, because he's got an illness out indefinitely at the moment.
Out indefinitely. He was out all year with it. I don't know what the illness is. I've seen it's got some scientific name, so I can't remember it. But unless he gets better and comes back, if he gets better and comes back, it changes the depth, and then you do actually have people pushing for the fullback and stuff like that, and there's more realistic competition over Zach Lomax, a centre, vying for fullback position.
That halves combination really worries me.
Yeah.
Kyle Flanagan at 5'8", who's only there because of his dad, and Ben Hunt at halfback, who we've said doesn't have any influence over the result, even though he's on over $1 million a year. That I look at that and I just go, seriously, this is our halves combination? I mean, it's really not much to get excited about, and that's their first choice halves combination.
Well, at the moment, it's their only halves combination.
I'm really, really concerned about that from a Dragons.
So if they had if Volkman hadn't have gone down, then he's probably in theory a better player than Kyle Flanagan. if Volkman hadn't have failed his assessment and actually been able to come into the squad. So Ben Hunt and Ronald Volkman as the halves is a little bit up, but even then, it's still not good enough to push for any top 8. Nothing. Their spine is dead. Like, they've got, honestly, nothing. They have some guys like Ravalawa who can put points on the board, but they don't have a team that is a real top 8 level team.
No. And not even close.
Shane Flanagan is not Wayne Bennett or Craig Bellamy, who can take a team that on paper doesn't look like a top 8 team, come up with a tactic that works perfectly for them, and instill a whole wall of defence, and then get them to the 8.
He can, over a number of years, build a team into that. But he can't do it with a team that's on paper looks like that.
Yeah. Because when Wayne Bennett came into the Dragons, they had no superstars, and they had guys who were fringe first graders like Jamie Soward and things like that. And then Wayne Bennett did sign some guys like ex-Origin player Neville Costigan, who everyone said was past it. Nathan Feen, who everyone said was past it. And then Wendell Saylor, who everyone was like, oh, a guy coming back for a 2-year suspension. And created a perfect game plan around them that was just 100% defence and then exploitation of the downtown rule with Jamie Soward's kicking. That's what it was. And that was able to get them straight away into something. Shane Flanagan isn't that coach. He's the coach that over 7 years will take all these guys and turn them into first graders, high quality first graders. Don't be surprised.
While doing other recruiting around it, key recruiting.
Don't be surprised if in 7 years, Tyrell Sloan is Clive Churchill medal winning fullback for the Dragons. I wouldn't be surprised.
It'll happen in the future, but not this year.
Yeah, nothing. You'll get nothing out of him this year.
To be fair to Shane Flanagan, though, John, I think if Craig Bellamy or Wayne Bennett or Ivan Cleary were coaching this Dragons team,
well, they wouldn't be a top 8 team.
I don't think they'd be getting any results either. So, in defence of Shane Flanagan, I don't think any coach could get results out of this 17.
Well, I think they wouldn't be a top 8 team with Wayne Bennett or Craig Bellamy or Ivan Cleary, but they wouldn't be a wooden spoon team either. And it's just because of the coaches. It doesn't matter who you are outside of those super coaches. This team is a wooden spoon team.
It's certainly a bottom 4 team. As I say, I've got them 14th only because I think Shane Flanagan will instill better habits. I'm being a bit kind, John. I'm being a bit charitable, but I think he will have some sort of an impact. But it's not going to be anywhere. It's not going to be enough to get him out of the bottom 4 this year.
No, definitely not. Yeah, so that's it for the Dragons. Keeping in mind, I'm a massive Dragons fan, and I still think this for them. So if people see this on the internet and start abusing us, as they do, we'll get social media blow-uppers pretty soon. Next week it will be Dan's Bulldogs.
Thursday, yes.
Yes, Thursday it'll be the Bulldogs. We'll see how they go.
Yes.
Maybe Dan has more faith in the Bulldogs than I have in my Dragons. We'll see.
Will be revealed on Thursday, John.
There's no AFL news, which is amazing. No, it's not really amazing. There's not really any combat sports news. We'll do a quick preview on Thursday for the card on Sunday with Strickland versus Duplessis.
Yeah, I may be watching that one, John.
Oh, I'll watch it. It'll be, man, just because you want to see Sean Strickland's post-fight interview is the main reason to watch it, actually.
Strickland's got me in here, John.
I'll be watching the press conference Friday morning. I can't wait for it.
I think I'll go to the pub and watch that one on Sunday.
It'll be a really interesting, because whatever Sean Strickland says is going to be GTA character in real life. But in other sports news, you touched on it before. Novak Djokovic had a charity event based around cricket.
It was actually based around, it was cricket, and there was also some basketball on the tennis court, which was a bit interesting. Peter Bowl, also the very good Australian distance runner, was had a running race against him as well. There were a couple of other. There was a basketballer and a gymnast. To be honest, John, I didn't know who they were. They weren't high profile. But Steve Smith was there as well, and Shane Warne's son Jackson, and they bowled a few balls to him, batted against him, and Novak's cricket skills weren't too sharp. I think Shane Warne's son got one past him. And then he changed from a cricket bat to a tennis racket and used his tennis racket.
I saw Steve Smith smash a 6 off a ball for the new ball.
Yeah. Steve Smith made light work of Djokovic's bowling as well. But,
yeah, it was pathetic. But he's a tennis player. Bowling is hard, all right?
Yeah, I mean, it was... See, we try and give Novak a chance, John. We try, but as we said before, he just tries so hard to be liked, and there's part of me that thinks maybe he's got to abandon this strategy. I'm not saying don't donate to charity. Donate all you want, but you don't have to have a big event like this. You can just donate anonymously if you want, Novak.
Yeah. Go the Ted Danson route, man.
And again, good on him for doing something for charity, John. We should give him credit for that, but I think he's got to abandon this strategy of trying to be well liked by everybody all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not doing him any favours.
Yeah, Conor McGregor it. And then other news, I was watching this match yesterday, the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
Yes.
It was ridiculous. The fact that it was the 4th coldest game in NFL history drives me, it's madness. Yeah. I was watching it. It was crazy.
Yeah, got down to minus 20 degrees Celsius and wind gusts of up to 27 miles an hour.
While they were playing. It was crazy. All the money was going on the Chiefs, and the Dolphins screwed the spread up as well by not defending very well. So
but guess who turned out in the crowd, John, despite the cold weather?
I saw.
Our favourite singer.
Yeah, Tay was there.
Yes.
It does flash at her a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really does.
A lot more than at the Golden Globes.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It was kind of annoying. It cuts to her a lot.
Is it getting too much now?
That was the first game. Sorry, it's not a match. First game I've watched. And, yeah, it was a lot. It was... I watched second and third quarter, and I saw Taylor Swift at least 10 times. I mean, there's a lot of stoppages.
She's on camera more than the players.
Yeah, there's a lot of stoppages in American football, but still, it was it was too much. That was my first experience with it, and I can see why people...
You can't question her commitment. We've been a bit critical of her, but you can't question her commitment turning out in very cold conditions.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's... it's the kind of thing where the water would freeze as it poured out and stuff, it was nuts. I can't believe they actually played. Meanwhile, rugby league players are running off a field when it's hailing.
Yeah, the Chiefs won. So
they
Taylor Swift's team won.
Yeah, they smashed them. Absolutely
26-7 over the Miami
The spread was
Dolphins.
4.5, so...
And it was a playoff game too.
Yeah, they really, really smashed them.
To be honest, John, I only put that in because Taylor Swift was in the crowd. I know how much you like it when I put Taylor Swift.
Yay, Tay-Tay. Onto our social media blower-uppers. We're going to have a couple of comments today on episode 39, which was our last episode.
Yes.
The General, which is one of our fans. Hi, The General.
Yes, he's one of our good commenters, John. He's constructive always.
He said, I wouldn't say the Dogs were never in the game in the 2012 Grand Final, just a defensive masterclass shut down from the Storm. Weren't the Dogs raiding their line for a large portion of their half? Now, I had to try and remember what he was talking about, and it's because you mentioned... You've watched 4 grand finals where the Dogs were never in the game.
Yes. So, John, I went back and had a bit of a look at this. So, I was at this game, John, and I was obviously devastated at the end of it. So the Storm led 4-0 after 7 minutes. The Bulldogs levelled at 4-4 after 25 minutes. And you might remember very infamously, John, there was an all-in brawl which included James Graham doing a Hannibal Lecter on Billy Slater and biting him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was very short-lived that the Bulldogs were in the game, John. The Storm led 10-4 after 32 minutes, and then they led 14-4 after 39 minutes, 14-4 at half-time. The second half was scoreless, 14-4 at full-time. The Bulldogs couldn't get a look in. The Storm scored 3 tries to 1. Cameron Smith kicked just 1 goal from 5 attempts. Had a very off day with the boot. So if you give him those 4 goals, it's 22-4. The Storm also had a very contentious disallowed try in that second half. So if that was given to them, it could easily have been 28-4, John. So it was... I know you might look at the final score and go, well, the Bulldogs weren't really out of that game. But if you factor all this other stuff in, it could easily have been a much bigger scoreline on the Bulldogs, John. So it was actually the first grand final to have a scoreless half of play, incidentally. So there you go. But I just thought Look, maybe he's got a point. Maybe they were in it for a period in that first half, but I think the scoreline flatters the Bulldogs in that game, John. The Storm were well on top of them for the whole game, and
I remember
it was a more comprehensive win than just 10 points.
Yeah, I didn't think at any point while watching the game that the Bulldogs looked like they were going to win.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking when I made that comment that they were never in the game. But the general is he's very polite, he's very constructive. And he's one of our good commenters. John.
It was in a year where Melbourne had ridiculous defence in 2012.
Before the 6 again rule, where Melbourne were able to just wrestle teams out of games.
And like I said, I just felt like while watching that match. It's very easy to remember the
finals.
That grand final specifically because of James Graham trying to Mike Tyson, Billy Slater.
Yeah.
And I can remember the whole match, and it was just. It just never looked like the Bulldogs were any chance of winning. No matter what. No matter when they were attacking, they didn't look like they were going to get through.
You can sort of see why I said they were never in the game. That scoreline of 14-4 didn't reflect the game at all, John. The Storm were... If it had been 28-4, you would have gone, that's about right.
Yeah. So on the shot about Rowan Dennis being charged, Shaz the Don.
Can you believe this, John?
Spineless twits, make a definitive statement since you're obviously trying to profit off the story by bringing it up in the first place. I made a definitive
statement about Shaz the Don's comment here, John. It's an idiotic and ridiculous comment. Completely idiotic. Completely ridiculous comment to suggest that we should make a definitive statement about only charges that haven't been played out in court yet. What, you expect us to say something definitive about that? We might get in some sort of trouble.
No, I'm happy to make a definitive statement. Rowan Dennis has been charged.
That's all you can say.
that's like what do you want us to do? Like give you an opinion on whether he's guilty or not? Was I there? Did I see it? Do I know?
And if we did that, John, we could get in some sort of trouble.
The only thing...
is it I'm not a big legal expert, John. Is it like sub judice or something where you can't comment on matters before the court?
Well, you can just say allegedly before it. No. Look, anyone saying more than there was an unfortunate death and Rowan Dennis has been charged.
Yeah.
Is not... They're not making a real statement. A definitive statement is the definition. Like, what has happened? This is what has happened. And that's all we do on this podcast. We say what happened. We're not trying to profit off the story as well. That's just a completely idiotic thing to say.
Yeah, John, I think it's fair to say that in the time we were away, we had a couple of weeks off over Christmas and New Year. In the time we were away, this was by far the biggest sports story in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I felt like on our first podcast back, we needed to make mention of it.
It was also 5 minutes in a 2 hour and 2 minute episode.
Yes.
So it's we bring it up because we bring up the news. We just brought up the Chiefs and Dolphins as the fourth coldest game in the NFL history. Is that me trying to profit from it and make a definitive statement? Like, man,
no, I had to very sadly, an Australian cyclist has lost her life, and I felt like as a sports podcast we needed to make mention of that, and and send our condolences, which we did. We sent our condolences to her family and friends and her children.
Exactly.
That was an appropriate way of handling it, John. And for him to just say, we're trying to profit off the story, give me a break. And we should make a definitive statement about just charges, only charges. What a stupid comment from Shaz the Don.
Yeah,
absolutely stupid comment.
I am trying to profit off the fact that you made a stupid statement, though. And I can definitively say, like Dan said, it was a stupid statement. So I'm happy to go for that one. And this will be a short Shaz the Don.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll send you this as a comment. That's it for the week from social media blower-uppers, or the last few days. Housekeeping, don't forget to sign up for the tip of the day. It's a horse racing tip that you get every day. There's some new functions launched on SmartB. Actually, one of them is you can sign up for which notifications you want. I've signed up to get my daily dose of rugby league, AFL, and so on and so forth that I like, cricket, tennis, everything on here, actually. So I got my email this morning detailing news reports, fixtures and upcoming fixtures and results of all the matches from yesterday. So I'll get that every day.
Yeah, nice one. I better sign up for that.
Yeah, I've just got to check this, actually. The corporate box competition, did it finish? I think it finishes... Oh, no, it finishes on the 25th of January, so you're not too late. Sign up to SmartB to enter the competition for the win a corporate box experience for you and 17 mates, or get 2 tickets to the Subversion event in April. It's very exciting. I've got some news for that I'm not allowed to reveal yet. And follow the SmartB app on all of the social medias. The SmartB Racing update is coming, I think, February. It's Bryce and Lewis. Remember that?
Lewis.
Yeah, Bryce and Lewis.
Looking forward to it, John, when it gets up and running.
And fingers crossed for Alex de Minaur tonight. Let's hope he wins.
Yeah, good luck, Alex. We'd love to see him go through to the final, even though we don't think it'll happen, John. We'd love to be proven wrong on that. So good luck, Alex de Minaur, flying the Australian flag proudly at the Australian Open.
Definitely. I'll see you on Thursday, Dan.
Thanks, John. Catch you then, mate.
Bye, producer John.
Bye.
Oh, God, that's not terrible. Bye.